So how much is the lease overall for 30 years?
It's a 30-year lease.
And how much is that, if you were to tally that all up, how much is the total cost?
I don't have the sum of the cost here in the bottom of that column,
Okay.
and I'm not going to try to do the math off the top of my head right now.
If you want a copy of the spreadsheet,
We
I'd
can
be
post
Is
it.
that available on the
I think it should be available online.
All right, then I should.
It was on the
It should be on the website, but if you want to look at mine, I mean,
If it isn't,
It's been, I'm 99% sure it's been posted on previous agendas.
yeah.
So
However, we'll post it.
my understanding is there's about 100,000 in annual savings
on average.
on average?
On average.
Average it out. What are we
Over
gonna?
30 years.
No,
Over 30.
that's.
Over, yeah, it is
Over
over
30 years.
Yes.
100,000 over 30 years.
Yeah.
If you average it
So
out.
if you do the Peters and main campus together, it's like 3.2 million
Right.
over 30 years, which is roughly
And that's with
100,000 a year.
Okay.
Only if you lease it all 30
Correct.
years.
So then with that savings, what are we gonna use that savings for? What is that gonna go towards? Is it going to go towards helping to retain teachers and have good teachers here? Or what are we gonna use this 100 grand for?
So,
That's what I would like. Or are we gonna use it to offset our debt? How is this gonna be applied?
Sure, so that would be at the discretion of the board. We're currently in the budgeting process. So we can keep and continue to hire good teachers. I believe we have an excellent teaching staff. So yeah, that's all through the budgetary process leading up to the approval of the
So
budget
in the
in
future, we
June.
can see teachers get a higher, raise maybe because they didn't really get what they deserved.
Again, that's all part of negotiations which are ongoing.
I understand. Okay, and my other question, I guess, would be, one more, sorry, I'm just gonna back for this. Have we looked into other companies giving us proposals for putting solar panels up on, like, let's say roofs or canopies or whatever? I mean, I know we have McClure, but why don't we have others? Why haven't we looked at 3 different bids?
Sure. We're not required to go through the bidding process because of the type of law that oversees this type of work.
Well, why wouldn't we?
Yeah,
Why would we just accept one offer?
Are you believing this outfit for everything they're saying?
They have met all of our performance expectations with every single project we've done with them.
But I still feel like we should still look at other options. Why are we just going with
Yeah,
one
right.
option?
Maybe
One
another
option that
outfit they
makes-
can say.
One at a time, please. I'm going to go back to Mrs. Snyder.
One option that upsets the community in destroying trees. My 15-year-old daughter, in hearing this conversation, the first thing she said to me is, "You're going to destroy the trees for this?" To go green. I mean, and she's learning all of this stuff about climate change and everything, and then she says to me, "We're gonna destroy trees to put up solar panels." So my question is can we look into other options? Like canopies, I know there was a suggestion to put concrete between the grasslands, between the middle school and the high school. Things like that, like maybe we could put solar panels on canopies or something. I don't know, I have suggestions.
Right here.
15
I've been
seconds.
researching different types of solar panels.
So hold on, Mrs. Snyder has the floor right now, and I believe she's running towards the end of her time. I will look to the board to see if they want to extend Mrs. Snyder's time, but also I believe your root question is, are we going to look at other contractors, other companies to provide this service? Again, we'll look to the board to see if they want us to go out to a traditional bid process.
Thank you. That's all I have.
You're welcome, Mrs. Snyder, thank you. And again, I know we're not here to take action this evening. What I would recommend is if that's something that the board wants to do, I believe this is slated at the earliest to go to the February board meeting, that would be proposed by a board member at that time.
Just a quick question.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry, Mr. Crispin, just to clarify that, There is no action planned for this in the month of January. Okay, we know that we have questions to answer yet. That's why we're being deliberate about the process. So, Mr. Chrisman.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No worries.
If we were to bid it out and get others, would that affect the permitting process that we already started?
Most likely, yes.
And would that knock you back into the 10% for the 2024 year for the tax credit then?
I'm going to ask you to hold. I'm going to try to be fair. I'm trying to be consistent here. So it would affect the permitting process. Basically, we would be starting over if we went out with other contractors.
Can I make a comment about McClure?
Sure.
And the gentleman, I think his name is Mr. Snyder. Is that Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Snyder is over to the right.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever was questioning McClure Company, oh, you're over there, okay. Whoever was questioning McClure Company, and I understand exactly what you're saying. And if McClure Company will come in tonight and drop this paper on my table and say, here's what I want you to do, I say, you know, what are you smoking? What world are you living in? Absolutely. McClure has done several programs in our district, upgrading lighting, ventilation, heating, things like that. And every time they've done that, they've made a promise and they said, we will save you X number of dollars a year. And they have met and exceeded those proposals in every year that they've been here. And it's not just one project, it's several projects. So they begin to get a little bit of credibility in my mind that, yeah, these guys aren't just out for themselves.
To a point.
What?
To a point.
But they've exceeded anything they've promised.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
when it comes to money, I own 2 businesses. When it comes to money,
And-
your word, you can say all you want, but when it comes down to the bottom dollar, you know, just because they exceeded all your expectations on the last 5 jobs they did, who's not to say they're bending you over the coals on this one?
And I can maybe
I mean,
give that.
that's just good business to
I can
look into other
give that a
options.
little credibility because this is not the first solar project that they've done. And we have already spoken to several other districts where they have done projects for, and, you know, how do we know if we go out for bid that the guy's gonna do a good job?
You
either?
don't.
You know, all I'm saying is this company has, in my mind at least,
And I
created
respect that.
a certain amount of
I respect that.
comfort and
I would just like to
responsibility.
know, there's lots of questions going into building something.
Absolutely.
Especially something of that scale, to
Absolutely.
ruin all that property for the solar panels, like, is
I
it my
agree.
turn to ask questions yet?
So actually, so I am going to transition. It
My
is,
question, that doesn't count. You answered my question, that doesn't count, so.
so Mr. Snyder, you are actually next on the list.
I got more questions to go.
Oh, okay.
So now, if you would buy it out, so if the school district's gonna, okay, we're gonna buy these solar panels, we're gonna do the project. Okay? Does it still have to go to 3 bids? Because
I'm
you're
not
spending,
sure I understand your
because you're
question.
spending state money, well, taxpayers' money, that should go out to 3 bids. If you're buying it out. If you're leasing it, I see that it doesn't have to, that I see.
Right. So are you saying is your question if we purchase from day one?
If you purchase from day one,
Yes, then we would have to go out to bid.
then it would have to go out to public bid.
Correct.
Okay. So, is the school leaning towards leasing or buying?
I've never been involved in a conversation where we talked about buying solar panels.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford it.
It's still an option though.
Down the road.
All you gotta do is
afford it.
raise the taxes again, I mean.
Not initially.
I'm sorry, I pay taxes on 2 big properties, it's a lot of money that's going to the school district.
So I can tell you administratively, we would never recommend to buy them out, to buy it from day one
Okay,
because of the upfront cost.
okay, right, financially, it doesn't,
If
even,
you would never recommend buying it, it doesn't financially make sense for anybody to purchase.
no.
You just let the cat out of the bag for the entire room. Financially, this does not make sense. Somebody's back is getting scratched somewhere, and the taxpayers are
No.
So
Okay,
right now,
Can I
right now, Mr.
respond to
Snyder
this?
has the floor, so we're gonna go with Mr. Snyder.
This is not your time. There's another factor that hasn't been mentioned here, okay? And it has to do with the federal government, all right? And the federal government is providing tax incentives to do that, which they won't provide to a school district, but they would provide to a private entity. So they're the ones that they're getting the tax, like if you put solar panels on your home, you can get a tax break for that, okay? The school district can't get that, but these companies can. So that's the cat who's getting paid off. They're getting federal money to do a lot of that from other corporations.
Everybody's inflation went through the roof because of free federal money.
So, Mr. Snyder, do you have any other questions?
So, these solar panels are gonna power this campus.
For the lot proposed down the hill from the high school, it would be for this entire campus.
Yes. What happens to the excess electricity? That's McClure's then, right?
Actually, no, we would receive any excess profit.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
part of the legislation.
So if you're leasing,
Yes.
so what is McClure getting out of this?
They're getting,
Just the lease money?
they're getting the money from the government through all the tax breaks.
Okay.
So that's
Plus the school district's lease money.
Well, plus our lease money.
Right.
Right, and our lease money,
Because this is where I'm trying to go,
Right.
right?
yes.
Because then things are gonna create a lot of back energy, I would imagine.
Well, they're sized for 100% capacity of this entire campus.
One of the
You're not getting any
questions I ask is, could we put more panels in and make more money? And the answer is absolutely not. You're only allowed to put in to kind of offset
That's what I was getting
theoretically
at.
what you're
Right.
making with a
Because that would
little.
be-
That's what I was gonna get at.
With a little left over.
Up across from the Pocono Raceway, you ever see them solar panel fields?
Yeah, I did.
Them just don't power the
Yeah.
the racetrack, that's what I'm wondering.
We're looking at, for this campus, right now we're using about 2.4 million kilowatt hours a year. They're modeling it, so now we're going from kilowatt hours down to like kilowatts, different measurements. 1,800 kilowatt field, which is about 5 acres. So that's designed to power the buildings and facilities on this campus.
Right.
It has nothing to do with, Peters or surrounding properties or
No,
anything like
that's-
that.
I
Yep.
was just
Is Peters,
wondering.
is Peters still part of this?
So, Mr. Snyder, to answer your question, Peters is a separate project,
Okay.
but it could be folded into these timelines if the board so choose.
That's where you get to 3.2.
Okay.
It's 2.5 for the high school, it's 670 for
Okay.
Peters.
Right.
That's where you get to the
Yeah.
3.2.
That's not
I'm
easy.
good.
Okay, good. So, thank you, Mr. Snyder. The next
Maybe just
person.
the other way, Matt. 3.
The next person said no. And just double check, that's, looks like Steve Walters.
Yeah, I'll do it at the end.
Okay. So that's everybody that signed up this evening. I'm gonna kind of circle back. I'm not gonna call on you or acknowledge you if you're kind of calling out, right? We're having a positive conversation so far. I am gonna go to the gentleman that had initially raised his hand, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Sir, can you tell me your name,
My name's Joe Pape.
Joe Pape, and where you live, please?
I live on Washtown Road,
Washtown.
right across the street from the nature trail.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pape. Go ahead.
Circle back to about the roof, the option to put it on the roof. So we're talking about doing a lot of different studies. Who's doing the roof study to find out how many solar panels we can put on the roofs of our buildings? Who's doing that study?
Well, that would go back to if we asked them to do that, it would go back to the engineers at McClure.
So who's going to ask the engineers to do the study?
Well, that would come from the school board if we wanted them to do that.
So like literally, which person, who is going to do that?
That would be a vote at the school board at the next school board meeting if they wanted us to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
But that would be, I think that would be in my opinion, no-brainer option to at least explore the putting it on the roof. We should at least explore that before we level hundreds of trees. Next question. Is there anywhere else on Northern Lehigh School District property that is being considered an option at this time? For 5 acres?
For this campus. So setting aside Peters Elementary School.
Yes, sir. Setting aside.
They looked at, during their initial, where would best be to locate it, the entire campus, and there's not another 5-acre plot that they can put it on.
So this is.
It would have to be, for example, some solar arrays perhaps in the field in between Bulldog Lane and the middle school, or where the current softball practice field is, or over here on the side of Slatington. It'd be much smaller parcels of
Or
land.
3 different ones, perhaps.
Perhaps.
5 1-acre pieces. Has that option been explored? That's my exact point. I understand. My exact point is, I understand that there is not another continuous 5 acres that is ideal to level for this project.
Right.
However, can we give a little bit of field hockey field, a little bit of practice field, a little bit of behind the stadium? Is that an option? Did anybody explore that?
So again, if the board directs administration, we can go back and do that. I can share with you my opinion on that, then the structures are street side, school side, parking lot side, house side. Yeah.
Us, but not them.
Yeah, so right now, the way it looks like, that they're gonna be into the woods. We're not clear cutting from the road up to the fence.
You're definitely not gonna do that. You're
Oh,
not gonna
no.
clear cut, you're not gonna cut from Welchtown Road or Ski Club Road to gain access. You're not gonna do that?
No. We're gonna have to put an access road in, which now we're looking to do from our property down, but we're not gonna clear cut from the road to where the chain link fence would be.
Great, that leads to my next question. If we're gonna clear cut from up here down, have you been through there?
Yes.
How are we gonna cross the street?
I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
There's a creek.
Oh, across the creek. I thought you said street. Stream. They would have to put down a base road to get from the back edge of our property down to where the solar array field would be.
So, a road.
An access road, yes.
That has to. There's a literal 60-foot embankment.
They would have to,
So they're gonna bridge across that?
yeah.
No, I'm not sure. So there's 5 wetlands back there. They all drain into Welchtown Creek, which is a tributary of
Yep.
Trout Creek. All
Yep.
those wetlands drain right through there.
Correct.
You would have to cross to get from this piece of property to that piece of property. You would have to cross that stream.
Yeah, they would
And
have
there's
to,
slate banks on this side and a hill on this side. There's about a 60-foot ravine right there.
yeah. They would have
So how are we
to,
gonna cross that?
they would have to manufacture to be able to get from there, from point A to point B.
And we don't pay anything extra for that.
No, that's part of the access. That's part of the project.
I saw on the proposal that it seemed like we would come from the school or to be determined. Is that true? That's how it was worded?
I don't have the wording here in front of me. It may have said that, but I'm telling you that administration is saying we don't want it to be a public road access
So
point.
here's
We
what
want
I'm
it to be
afraid
from
is,
the
here's
district.
what I'm certain is going to happen.
30 seconds.
They are going to look at that and say, wow, there's no way in heck we're gonna get from here to over there. Let's use Welchtown Road or Ski Club Road to get there instead. And all of a sudden, what was said about coming from the school is gonna be out the window because of cost factors, because I already know it's impossible to build a bridge across there.
We're not looking to build a bridge, but go ahead.
Well, you're gonna jump it or something, but I can already tell you what's gonna happen is access for those panels is gonna come off of Ski Club Road or it's gonna come off of Welchtown Road.
10 seconds.
And I think they should plan for that because it's not feasible at all what's in their suggestions.
Joey,
If I get 5 more minutes.
Joey, that access road that comes in kind of right in the middle of the curve, where does that go? That goes back into there. I didn't walk that part. I walked the ski
Yeah.
club part and the road
That's
part,
a
but
great question, Matt. That goes right through my property.
that's
Which is why I have a real vested interest in this, because literally, I own the only property that is literally touching and not dividing by a road. I own the only property that's abutted to this project that's not divided by a road.
so that road you're saying is actually on your property, Joe?
Yeah, I own
Yeah, that like
about
flat.
Okay, I
A
just
little less
wondered.
than an acre on that
You know,
side
you know
of
the
the
road I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that's right where all the surveyors parked and walked through to get there.
Okay.
Yep, I know right where you mean.
Got it. Thank you.
That's fine, too.
So
They must not have seen it before.
we're gonna go
Show us.
to, I believe the community member down here to my left had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I apologize. So, I want to kind of start by introducing myself. My name is Mary Roberts, and I grew up right there on Washington Road as well. I want to begin by saying that I am for solar panels. I actually have solar panels. And so I researched them for about 4 years, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that not every company is going to quote you the same. I have thoroughly researched them. We had probably about 6 different companies in the past 4 years. So I myself, personally, was sold on going with panels. I can also tell you that anybody that knows anything about panels knows that the ground panels are more efficient. They produce more energy, which results in more savings for school. However, I want to go back and bounce off of what Joe Pape was saying. It's a win-win situation, I feel like, if we at least, the school board opens up their minds to the possibility of exploring getting the panels put on the roof. This way, we're gonna be saving so much money in it not knocking down 13 acres of land, having to put in a bridge, having to put in a fence. God, I can't even imagine how expensive a fence is gonna be surrounding 13 acres and all of the other costs associated with ground panels versus roof panels.
So, just to clarify, it wouldn't be 13 acres. Okay, nobody is saying we're taking down 13 acres. Okay. Second, all of that cost is built into the proposal that has been shared out several times over the past few months. It's not cost to the district to say, now go add a fence, now go add whatever else may need. No, an additional cost would be if the district wanted to put security cameras up.
Right.
But as far as the groundwork, the excavation, the fencing,
The company is paying for all.
the company is part of all that.
The one and only company that we received a quote from, is that correct?
A proposal from, yes.
Right, why are we not shopping around, however? I mean, we're talking about, the ultimate goal is to save money, yes?
Yes.
Okay. No brainer here. Why are we not on the phone getting different quotes from other companies?
Well, what could it hurt?
Exactly.
And again, if the board directs administration to go forward, sir, excuse me, if the board directs administration to do that, we will do that. We'll go to this, can you please state your name and where you
My
live?
name is Katya Bender. I live on Pine Tree Drive, which is like 2 roads down here. I am a parent of 3 current students in our school district. And when my 12-year-old heard me talking to one of the other parents about coming to this meeting and putting up solar panels, he asked me, where are they gonna put solar panels? And I said, well, the current plan is to take out the woods and put solar panels in. And he said, but that's the wildlife. So he then proceeded to ask me if the point of solar panels wasn't to be environmentally friendly. And I said, it actually is. And I'm not opposed to solar panels. I think they're cool. They're great. My parents had them on the roof all the way back in the 80s. And they did, make a financial difference in our electric bill. However, I'm sitting here trying to discuss with a 12-year-old how being environmentally friendly with solar panels makes any sense when you clear out the entire wooded area that the children in this neighborhood, they play there. They explore there. They learn about the outdoors. They learn about, my kids can identify birds I didn't even know existed. And we live in a society where all we talk about is people need to be outside more, people need to be off their screens more. And we have this natural gem right here in our school district. And, oh, well, it'd be cool to just level it all and put some solar panels in there. 30 years from now, if those solar panels are no longer good, is someone gonna replant trees? Are we going to reestablish the ecosystem? I mean, there are bears that live in there. I know this because they show up in my backyard sometimes. There are deer that live there. They stroll through our entire school district complex here. What is the, I'm not, like, wetlands aside, this is a massive environmental impact we're talking about for the sake of going green. I mean, there has to be a better solution than me explaining to all of the neighborhood kids that solar panels are more important than the actual environment that was already there. That's my 2 cents on this whole thing.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. So we'll go to the gentleman here in the back with a raised hand. Thank you, sir. Can you state your name and where you live?
Yeah, my name is David Pape,
Hello, Mr. Pape.
and those of you that know me, know that I've taught in this school district for close to 35 years, 34 point something, and also that I was part of making the nature trail here, started in about 1979, 1980, and I, with a group of many teachers, did an awful lot of work putting in a nature trail and an environmental center in that area that's in there. And I know for a fact that there are many animals, and, well, for instance, a bog turtle. We have bog turtles that are in that area. Okay, now they're protected. They're an endangered species. And there are not many areas that house bog turtles. I also know that we have many different kind of birds back there that are rare and that nest in that area back there. And I just, from the standpoint of environmental science and the standpoint of nature, I don't want to see that wooded area destroyed. To me, it's terrible. After the district invested a lot in developing an environmental science area, and I've taken many of my classes back there for biology and environmental science courses. And the reason a lot of kids recognize birds and recognize different kind of animals is because they've been learning a lot of that stuff for the last many, many years. And they enjoy it. And to me, it breaks my heart to see the thought of wiping out the wooded area for this purpose. I also like the idea of a solar area, but I like the solar area idea on roofs or on small parcels that they're not destroying the environment. And that's what concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. We'll go, okay, to the gentleman, the first gentleman
Hi,
closer
Steve
to the front.
Walters here.
Hi,
I live
Mr.
about
Walters.
1/8 of a mile up from Ski Cliff Road. And I had a neighbor that tried to put in a miniature housing development, and he had wetlands there. So I called DEC to see if they did a study on the mud bog turtles, same as Mr. Pape said. He did not have one done, so it took 3 years for the DEC to come in and do this study, only to find out that there were endangered turtles there. Needless to say, his development was shut down. So what happened, did DEC come in to do this study yet? And if they do, it's gonna shut you down for 3 years.
So that's part of the process. If it's through
So
the
it's gonna be 3
zone,
years
if through the
of talking about
zoning,
this.
if through the zoning, we need to go through that,
We
the
need
district
to.
would
It's
comply.
wetlands. It's wetlands within 1/8 of a mile of a current known location of bog turtle. So it's a no-brainer that this study is gonna have to be done. He owned 10 acres and had 1.5 acres of wetlands, and it was shut down.
So to answer your question, if that's part of the permitting process that we must do, we will of course do it.
But I don't understand how we got to this state of this process, and DEC hasn't been contacted to see what kind of things they have to meet. the Department of Environmental Conservancy, I mean, they have to be a part of this if there's wetlands. So how weren't they notified to
So
say, hey?
the wetland study will go to all the departments, or has gone to all the departments that need to receive it as part of the part of the point of the current place that we're in for the permitting process.
So maybe what I'm saying is, maybe the wagon's ahead of the horse here. That you're talking and trying to get approval on something that might not even be able to happen.
Potentially. Yeah.
So is anybody going to reach out to DEC and ask about this study?
Yeah, that's part of the permitting process. So
And who's doing the
ELA,
permitting? McClure?
well, it's right now it's under one pulled permit under ELA Sports.
Yeah.
So that's part of the earlier conversation, Mr. Walters, about do we need to split the permits or not? Baseball, softball, solar project. We don't yet have the answer to that.
All right, I think we might just all be getting too excited over something that's impossible, because if there's dog turtles there, you're done, shut down. And hopefully there are. Because then you'll actually have to explore your other options that it seems like nobody wants to explore. As in rooftops or bidding it out to other companies or any other options. It seems like everybody's just focused on destroying this woods and this is the easy solution, but yet it seems like there's a lot of fences that may be up over this.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. I'm going to go to the gentleman in the back that had his cap, with the cap that has hand up.
So, one of the things I was looking at the proposal and going through, looking at it.
And I'm sorry, sir, can you say your name again?
Eric King.
Yep, hi, Mr. King, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So one of the things that I was looking through in this proposal is the case study that they used for, I think it was Mifflin County School District somewhere, I'm not sure exactly where that was. It said they put in a 5-megawatt array system for their school district, and it listed their savings and so forth. Does anybody actually know how much it costs to put in a 5-megawatt solar array in this building? Or at all? I looked it up, it's about $2.80 per watt, which roughly makes that about a $14 million project. So right now you're asking, the school board's basically saying that McClure is gonna be our only option, we're not gonna get any bids on what they're basically laying out $14 million just to purchase the equipment. That's not the cost of installation, that's not the cost of building whatever bridge or access roads or anything else that may need to go into this. When you're playing around with $14 million, you need to get other bids. I don't care if we're just leasing it or we're purchasing it, other people need to be involved in this. Not one single person in this room would have any construction done on their home without having 3 or 4 estimates done to see who's gonna give them the best bid. Now, it may still come back that McClure is the best option. That may be the case. But if there's another company that says, no, we can put all of them on your roof, it's gonna be a third of that cost savings, and you don't have to destroy the woods, that's just common sense. There's nobody here that would add an addition to their home without getting 3 or 4 other offers or estimates from other contractors or anything like that. The other thing I was looking through that really obviously goes back to if we're leasing or purchasing, it's a very gray area when they list here after 5 years we have the option to purchase it. If it costs $14 million up front to purchase it now, what is that fair market value after 5 years? Has anybody on the board asked McClure these questions to know what we might be in for 5 years from now if we do decide to purchase this?
So actually, we did ask them that question.
Okay.
And at this time, we can't determine what the fair market value would be in 5 years.
Okay.
But that is part, if the board were to move forward and sign a contract with them, that would be part of the process then.
Okay, so the other question is, on their graphs here, it lists that known maintenance needs to be done at 15 years to replace the inverters that go
Correct.
from 12-volt solar direct current energy to 120-volt home electricity. Does anybody on the board ask the question of how much those inverters are gonna cost after 15 years?
I think they're
It's
about,
a problem,
right.
but what would it be at our cost?
I think we're looking at about 50,000. Yeah, $50,000. If the district purchased them.
Now, we don't know that for sure. Obviously, they
Correct.
could be more expensive 15 years from now.
Correct.
The other thing is, does anybody on the board know what degradation of a solar panel is? Somebody mentioned it a little bit before. These solar panels lose efficiency of about 0.5% to 1% each year over their lifespan. So if you're putting in a 30-year project here, and you're gonna lose 1% of efficiency over the time, I know their graph laid that out in there,
Yep.
but by the time you would be done doing this, they're basically useless after 30 years. So their energy
I
savings
think their
after 30
projections
years-
were an additional 10 years after the 30 years, that they would
basically
still be
the
able to
board-
perform.
The solar panels have a lifespan of 30 years, so at the time you're done with that 30 years, you're gonna be replacing them, because they're no longer going to be cost effective to continue to maintain them and get the effectiveness out of them to continue to use them. Now, also, like it was stated before, if we're just leasing these things, obviously they take them away. Do we go back, do they plant trees and reclaim the area back to the way it originally was when they found it?
That would not be part of the contract.
Okay, now, my other question is for this, if you looked at that 5 megawatt station to purchase it outright at $14 million, if you sat there and said, okay, let's do a 30-year loan on $14 million, that comes out to $200 and something thousand without interest a year that you're paying just on that. So financially, does it make sense to spend $200,000 a year to save a little bit on electricity and also destroy the wetlands and woods, whatever's over there? Somebody's making money on this deal, and it's not us. We're gonna end up paying the ongoing maintenance, the ongoing replacement, the ongoing, if there's any vandalism done to these board or panels. What happens if McClure goes under in 5 years from now, and we're stuck with just sitting there with solar panels and nobody to maintain them? We all know exactly what happened to Solyndra Energy Company when that happened 10 years ago. These companies get all sorts of grants and federal money, and then 5 years later, they're done, and all of a sudden, no longer there to maintain them. And we're stuck with a 5-acre plight on the land.
I don't have all the answers for your question right now, Mr. King. I can tell you, you brought up maintenance. That's all on McClure, other than
But what happens
cutting the
if they
grass
go-
around them.
What
If we purchase them, then it's on us.
We need to find out what happens if McClure goes under. What is our taxpayer going to have to fund for ongoing maintenance for these? If they put this project in, everything's wrapped up and 100% done at the end of this year, and say 2 years from now McClure goes under, what is our financial obligation yearly to maintain, support, and continue this solar project? Those questions need to be answered to the community.
Thank you. I think the gentleman right here with the eyeglasses.
One thing I have is.
And sir, can you tell me your name quickly?
Norm Hanworth.
Norm Hanworth.
Okay, I'm very active in the Slangton Ski Club, and, you know, we're in the, leaving things natural, and that's the way it ought to be. But anyway, oh, do you think, must you take the lease, how long can you take a lease for?
Up to 30 years.
So you can take it for 10 years if you wanted to.
We have the option to purchase after 5 years.
But I'm asking leasing.
If we ended it without purchasing, I'm sure in the contract there would be like kind of termination fees.
Yeah, right, but I'm just asking how many years? I mean.
So is 30 years or nothing?
Is it 30 years or nothing, or what?
Well,
There's
no, after 5.
Okay, just let me finish the question. It's
Go
not
ahead.
a big deal. Okay, you lease it for 10 years,
Yes.
okay? Now what? You don't take the lease, what, do they rip it out?
If we broke the contract, we would have to sort through what would happen at that
I'm
time.
saying, but if you took a lease for 10 years, and you only took it for 10 years, what happens to it? Because you're not leasing it anymore.
We would have to purchase it out then at that point.
You would have to purchase it even though you lease it for 10 years.
So it's either a 5-year lease, buyout after 5 years.
Correct.
Or it's a 30-year lease under contract.
No, that's what I was trying to say, and I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you and step
I
on
get a
you.
little one though.
You know, I never do, so don't worry about it. No, 5 is the earliest we can do, but after that, there's options all along there between 5
So
and
if we come
30.
at 10 years, we
So
say, we want to buy out at 10
Yeah.
years now.
Or after
Yeah.
10 years, it says, this really didn't work, get your garbage off our land,
I-
we could
I-
do that, you know. there-
Mr. Green, let us
There might be a
find
clause
that
there.
specific, because there would be a termination cost.
Oh, there'd be a
Yeah,
termination
yeah,
cost.
yeah.
I'm not saying there would be
Yeah.
a termination cost, but we could terminate and tell them to leave if we wanted to. But we don't know what, we don't, that cost was. And the other thing I wanted to say is, you're asking some kind of semi-legal questions here. And one of the things that needs to be done also is our solicitor needs to sit down with their people, and they need to draw up an agreement before we move forward with that. We haven't really even started that yet because we're not that far down the process. So all those things would need to be taken care of in
Wouldn't
an
McClure have
agreement.
their own specific contract, which you guys would just review and then decide to meet their terms
They-
or not?
We would
They-
still run it by our solicitor.
They
and have
would
them
bring,
provide input. Yeah.
they would bring a contract, at which point we would review and also send to our solicitors.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you didn't agree to something in the contract, would you be able to say, well, we would agree to it with these terms?
Well, then
instead?
we would go back and forth and
You could
negotiate that, yeah, yeah. And that would all be also pending board approval, the actual signing of the contract after solicitor review, yeah.
Can I just make a statement quick? I know, I was here in the meeting in November, and when McClure was here, she was really pushing, saying, we need to vote on this. I mean, it's on video. And I
So
remember
that- so the-
that's why I figured January 2nd, or 3rd was coming, and I really felt like you guys are gonna be voting on this,
Yeah.
that's why we're here.
Yep.
Now you're extending it. Now do we need to come back every month so that we don't miss?
So well, I would encourage you to keep coming.
Well,
to
I
the
know.
meeting. And I know you're always here,
I'm
Mrs.
just
Williams.
saying, I felt
But,
like she was pushing it.
So, since then, the legislation has changed. And initially, it was sunsetting, I believe, at the end of December. That's been extended for, I'm not sure how long, but we have ample time now to still realize, for us and McClure to still realize those tax break incentives. Yeah, so that's what has changed there.
The money for the bond that we received to, reconsolidate everything, like for all the loans and stuff, and the money we're getting right now, to fund the softball field, if we were to push off that solar panel a little bit, I know you guys said you have to spend that money in the 3-year thing.
Correct.
So is that part of the solar panel, or is that just
No,
the softball?
that's totally different.
So if we moved with the softball, we would be still good with that money, and then the
Yes.
solar panel issue would be just another issue.
Yeah, if the direction from the board then is to split the projects,
Right.
I think we had $2 million for baseball,
I just wanted to
softball.
make sure
That's
that
still,
3-year money wasn't
yeah,
tied
that's
into
still
that solar.
intact. That's still usable for us for that project.
The only connection between them was that they're in kind of the same location,
Right,
so we kind of
permits
worked the
and all.
permit
What
process to them. Other than that, there's no connection between
There
the
was no
two.
question because of that bond money. That
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
wasn't-
we could forget about the softball field and do the solar field if we wanted to, there's
I
no
think the
connection that way.
softball and baseball field is best for this.
So I'm gonna go back to Mr. Hanward here, and then we'll go back over to you, sir. Okay.
What, do you people really think more of leasing or buying?
That's a question for the entire, there's 9 different opinions on
The question
that.
I have is, let's say you go buy it, okay, you buy it.
Yep.
You think in 30 years, there wouldn't be something better out and more efficient than panels or, in 30 years, something drastically is gonna be changing. So here we're locked up with that, and you could have something with half that or whatever, because technology, how it advances, in 30 years, that's a long time, man.
And that would be something that, if the board were to consider to purchasing it,
Yeah.
then it's theirs, and if the technology is,
Yeah.
no pun
You're always
intended,
gonna
light
get
years
better,
advances, light years ahead of that, and we own those panels, by we, I mean the
Because I'm
district.
looking at, I'm up in age and stuff, and I'm looking at my great grandkids and stuff, like, they're the ones that are gonna be paying for this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We won't be around,
Right.
so you gotta think about that too. And we're a small community, you can't really raise taxes all the time. There's a lot of things, I don't know.
Which is why we're looking at energy savings projects.
Yeah, I know, but the money you're saving is not a hell of a lot. It's nothing, and 10 years down the road, that money that's gone. Inflation, everything will suck that right out of it. So you're giving nothing.
Yeah, so we're trying to give opportunities for the board to look at cost savings.
All right. That's why the wife's not here.
Thank you, Mr. Hanwork. We're
So
gonna
I
go over
have two
here.
quick ones. The first one is this all borough property or township property, or is it a split between the two?
There's a split.
All right. Then the second one, in the last 5 years, the advancement in electric vehicles has gone through the roof. Let's say in 5 years, what 5 acres of property is gonna require today may only require 1 acre of land in 5 years. Did we think about, I mean, we can take this project from here down to here, and now all of a sudden we can fit it behind a baseball field, or there's other locations that it would fit. I mean, the electric ability in the world right now is only gonna keep getting better, 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 and the required land is gonna keep, the footprint's gonna keep shrinking and shrinking. You might be able to power this building off of an area the size of a car.
Potentially, sir, I don't know that.
You know what I'm saying?
Potentially, yeah.
The advancement in electric is just phenomenal right now, that we're gonna tie up 5 acres now, that if we just waited 2-3 years, could be a drastic decrease in land.
It could also get bigger because, like you said, the electric vehicle demand is getting higher, right?
Yeah, are
So-
teachers gonna be able to plug their cars in here off of this?
Currently, that's not an option currently.
There goes our profit, I'll tell you.
Which then your demand goes up.
Mr. Link, I have to apologize, I apologize to the community. I do need to leave, I have to pick up my daughter.
Yep.
I really appreciate all you guys coming out, giving us your input. I apologize, I do have to leave, I'm so sorry.
Understood.
I came to jail, so
I'm really sorry.
Thank you for listening to us.
So,
Thank you guys for coming out.
I just want to say, I just have 2 pictures here, quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is another option for solar panels. I mean, not just on the roof. So if you wanted to pass these around to the board, you can see there's other options that are out there. Just Google it. I mean, if you can't put them on the roof, you might be able to, parking deck garage. There's either panels in front of the school with the kids are putting their bicycles in. So when you say there's not enough room, there is. So I didn't know if you wanted to pass these around or look them up.
you can leave them at the table and start passing them around.
Yeah. I mean,
Thank you.
it's something I didn't know, and I was like, wow, look at this, different options for solar panels. So let's not rip the woods. Let's think of something else.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. I'm going to go back here to Mr. Pape, and then, just give me 1 second, sir. And then I'm going to look to Mr. Disler to see if you want to continue to extend the public comment. Mr.
So,
Pape.
Just real quick, I see you have the wetlands map up there, and I
Yep.
just reread all of this. You keep on saying wetland study. Has there actually been a wetland study, or did we just survey it and decide there's wetlands there?
No, there's been a wetland study.
Where is that?
Well, that was a wetland study, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a whole, it was a wetland study that was required as part of the permitting process.
And but that hasn't been completed. It's just been surveyed. Am I correct on that?
It was surveyed in the environmental study portion of it to determine the wetlands is complete. We just received that information right before the break, and the wetlands map is there.
Hold on, so you're telling me that the environmental study is complete? Is that what you just said?
No.
No. The portion that we know that is required at this time. There may be other portions, we don't know that yet.
So, I want to be more clear so you can answer my question more clearly. I think what has been done is it has been surveyed and established that there is wetlands there. Has anything besides that been done?
No.
Okay, so because we keep saying wetland study, but there
So
hasn't been.
so you're right, maybe the terminology is being interchanged.
Okay, so it's been surveyed.
But now that's going to all the different,
The map is.
well, the report that accompanied the map will now then go to see if other studies need to be done.
Okay, so then that report, where is that at? What do we actually have saying what we found in these wetlands, other than a map around? What do we actually have? Do we have something like that?
We have that from ELA, the company that, I guess, Does that
Land grant survey.
land grant surveyors?
The survey.
Yeah.
Again, survey it.
To establish that there's wetlands in there.
But that's all we did. All we did was establish.
That's,
that
yes, that's where we are in the
Mr. Kirk, you
process.
understand?
Yes.
Right? I feel like you're shaking your head.
Yes.
But we haven't done a study in here, right?
I don't think that they went that far yet, but that's
Okay.
part of the process.
I just wanna
where
make sure
The
they know
wetlands
that.
have now been established,
Uh-huh.
so I would believe that the next thing is that report will be sent out to the different agencies,
They'll do theirs.
and they'll all do theirs.
Got it. Okay. I
They will,
understand.
yes,
Because we
they
kept
will
saying
tell
wet-
us if we
because
need to
kept
do
talking
additional
about
work.
the wetland study that we did, but I don't think we did one. I think all we did was survey it. And I just wanted to be real
Correct.
clear, there's
Yes.
a big difference.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
No, you're
and
right.
thank you for pointing that out. The terminology is getting interchanged, and that shouldn't be like that.
Okay.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think we're at step one of probably 30.
A million.
You know, we're exploring our options, okay? The wetlands were now established. We didn't know that before this report. First time I'm hearing there's wetlands there.
You should have called me.
You have a map like this at your house?
I have a map like that on my phone that shows the wetlands and where they come from.
Oh.
Google it for $30.
Honestly, God, no, it wouldn't help us with the project, all right? So now we know we have wetlands established, and I'm sure other agencies will now get involved, and obviously the questions you guys are asking are the same ones we're asking.
I'll go here, and then we'll go Mr. Geiger, and then I'll look to you, Mr. Disler, you know, how much further you want to go with the public comment. So back here again, please.
Yes, Mary Roberts.
Yes, Mary.
So just as Mr. Kern was saying, we're just at the very beginning of this, and I think it's really important for our school board to keep in mind that we already established the solar panel company that you received a bid from, they're gonna receive a 22% tax credit this year. So they are on that timeline, because according to your notes from back in August, it drops to that 10% after the year 2023.
I think that has changed, just, that is,
It
yeah.
constantly has changed.
Yeah.
I've been watching the tax credit for the past 4 or 5 years now. It
Yeah.
constantly does change. We were at 26% last year. With that being said, I think it's important to keep in mind that the company is going to push you to make a decision sooner and continue, because that's gonna benefit them more. I think what I'm hearing, I don't need to speak on the behalf of everybody, but it sounds like it's not the community the community isn't necessarily against the idea of panels, but we're asking the board to present additional options and not just say, we have to rip out this acreage and we have to put them here. I feel like, just like Mr. Kern said, there's not enough research done yet to rush into any type of decision.
Certainly not for me to make a decision, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, no, there's no action.
That's all.
Thank you, Ms.
It's
Roberts.
the whole point it's the whole point for having the meetings, to ask questions, get answers, see where people stand, and to move forward. No one knows all the answers. As Bob said, we're at step one, and we've been working on this for, what, 6 months now? You know, so.
And that's why I strongly did not want to be pushed to this 5-minute limit. I really think that the community, the people that are here tonight, wanted to be able to discuss this openly without it being, something that we feel like there's not enough transparency.
I'm gonna go to Mr. Geiger, who had his hand up behind you, sir, and then again, like I stated earlier, I'm gonna look to Mr. Disler to see if we're gonna continue.
And was aware back in 2000 that we are sitting on wetlands behind us here. The nature trail and everything was deemed a wetland way before 2000, because I came here in 2000 and they were deemed wetlands back then already. So it is known to the district that our property is in a big section of wetlands. When they built the high school, that was already known then, back in 1980, that was wetlands. And the baseball field and softball field were wetlands back then already. So it's not new to the district that they now found out this is wetlands. If research was done, they would have known that on their own without getting someone to do that.
So I think part of the survey was to see where the location of the field, solar array field is.
Right.
What's that potential impact as they continue to go process
Right,
through the
and I
wetlands?
understand that, but the fact that the district is just saying they're finding out that this is wetlands isn't true.
Just for clarity, Mr. Geiger, some of the people at the table, it may be true for. Yeah.
Right.
For them.
Yeah.
Bob Kern does not know there was wetlands down on that. Does that help you, Brian? I did not know.
Well, it is there, and, you know.
Apparently.
it's been there.
But some of us knew there were wetlands,
I was gonna say,
Brian.
Matt Green knew it.
But we knew there were wetlands, but I
We
don't know
weren't sure
exactly where, how far back they were. And that was the reason, Brian, for moving it up closer to the road, because the quarry and the wetlands, from what I knew, were back further. So that's why if we were gonna do it, it made sense to me
Right.
to move it out closer to the road, because the wetlands were back further from what I knew of the area,
Right.
so.
And with what Dave Papay said about the environmental stations and everything out there, Stephen Hoslet knows this, that Troop 66 went in there and renovated that whole thing. And within 5 years, the community, students, and kids destroyed it. And they spent a lot of time and a lot of money redoing it.
Thank you, Mr. Geiger. Mr. Disler, do you want to continue with
Yes,
public
I would
comment?
like to just thank everybody for showing up tonight, voicing your opinion.
Hold
We've heard
on.
What's that? Oh, we're not closing, I'm just taking on this.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I
Okay.
want to make a comment on it.
Yep.
For voicing your opinion, I do believe though that McClure contacted us for a cost savings, and this is one of the opportunities that we looked in for another cost savings for us taxpayers in our district. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay, so all we're doing is looking to see what we can do in order to help defray that, not defray, to get that money to help us as a resident of the Northern Lehigh School District. Yes, we're gonna take a lot of things into consideration, and I've heard some tonight that I'm thinking very foolish that we even think. The other options that we have, maybe going by the roof. We have to look at, with all we did for our facility here, what's it gonna do to the roofs? With the warranty and stuff that we may have in the roof. So there's a lot of discussions that we're still gonna have to make. I would appreciate that if you take your time out every month that we have our meetings to show up and voice your opinions. It's well worth it. So if there's any other comments that anybody would like to share with the board, board members would like to share, we'll move on to the next one. And that will be bus patrol.
I'm gonna take a 2-minute break. You do whatever you want.
Okay, so again, no decisions are being made this evening. If you have additional questions, February committee meeting, we'll revisit this. From there, we'll decide whether it goes to the February board meeting or not. If it doesn't go then, at some point, we're gonna have to take it to an actual board meeting for a vote to move forward or not. That is not happening in January. The next time this specific topic will come back to the public will be at the February Technology Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting.
One quick question. Are you ever gonna have the company outfit person be here for us people to talk directly to them?
That, we're planning for that in February, sir.
Oh, February,
Yep.
okay.
For both softball, baseball, and solar. Representatives from both, yeah.
That's gonna be February 16th.
Is
If we
this
can-
project going to be mandated for the 3 bids, or to the bidding
It is
process?
not currently mandated under the current legislation.
It isn't?
It is not.
Okay.
So, Mr. Fedorcha.
If people have some questions that may need some research, can we ask them to send it to us in an email? So that we can at least have answers when we come here, and we will not have to not be able to really deal with the issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you foresee any of the savings going to the taxpayers at all? Or is that, it's not?
It's going to be folded into the budgetary process.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for that conversation. I appreciate the time all of you brought forward for that and all the thought all of you brought forward for that. We're going to move next topic on the agenda is bus patrol, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Durr for that.
So the next topic, bus patrol, as most everyone is aware, our current GPS routing software provider will no longer provide our product come June 30th, and we're investigating other companies. So at this point, we're really in the research phase. We're collecting information, but we did meet with Bus Patrol. They offer a nice camera package. We're working with Brandywine too to see, get their input, but just basically it was a quick update. Bus Patrol is something that we're looking at.
Doesn't Brandywine have any type of video in their buses?
Currently, there is audio and video on.
And that's supported by Northern Lehigh, or is that supported by Brandywine?
The camera systems belong to Brandywine. Yes.
You have access. You have access to monitor that at current time.
Real time, we do not. So it's recorded on a hard drive. They turn it over to principals who review the video with their own player in their office.
Let me ask you this. Could there be a possible way that Northern Lehigh does have actual time?
So with
recording.
We would really like to have that option, and Bus Patrol provides a product that is real-time video. If there was something going on the bus, we could actually log in and see it.
Was it real time or was it expedited time?
Well, it records. You could. What they said is you could just log in, kind of like our camera system now. Once it's recorded, it's on a hard drive basically, and you can just log in and you can pull whatever time just passed. Yeah, you can log in and pull that. Yep. So it's basically it would almost be like real time. Yes. But I think you're pulling an actual recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there could be a slight delay.
Could be a slight
Okay.
delay. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions about Bus Patrol? We're in the research portion right now.
Well, I do have another piece. What kind of cost is that going to cost the district?
So we need to investigate that a little further.
Okay.
It does sound like there is some cost to us, an installation cost, I'm gonna call it, per bus, but there's a whole program, and at this point, I really need to look at it and make sure that we know what we're looking at when we present it. But I just wanted to give an update that we did meet with the Bus Patrol folks, and it's one of the products we're looking at.
All right. We're finished then with Bus Patrol.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll move to technology.
Okay, it's hard to believe we're talking about this already, but 4 years ago is when we first purchased the one-to-one laptops for the high school. So we're at the point where we're looking to do a refresh of the one-to-one devices. This would be for high school students, and it would also be for district-wide staff. 4 years ago is when we purchased all the devices for high school and for the district-wide staff. So we went out and got some quotes from a few different vendors. And Integra had the best overall numbers when we looked at their quote. We looked at GDC also had their quote was probably, I think it was within about $5,000 to $7,000 of Integra as well. Those are two vendors that we deal with quite often. So what we are looking to purchase would be 600 HP Fortis G10 14-inch Chromebooks for the high school students. They rebranded their Education Edition as Fortis now. In the past, for the elementary schools, we always bought Education Edition Chromebooks. So we're looking at 600 Fortis Chromebooks. These are the 14-inch, so they're a little bit bigger than the ones we usually buy 11-inch for the elementary students and the middle school students. We would also require 600 Chrome licenses, 600 higher ground cases with straps. Again, that would be for the high school students. Then we would be looking at 300 HP EliteBook 630 G9 laptops. It's the model that's very similar to what I have right now. And that would be a combination of staff laptops for district-wide staff, and it would also be for, we would be putting some of those into computer labs at the high school as well. It would be for Andy Kern's lab for his video editing classes, things like that. We would also be putting them in Chris Bennett's lab for, he does like AutoCAD and those types of things. And we would also have a few extra ones. I know Mr. Barnes has also asked, he had a request that he would need them because he uses Photoshop and some other things for his yearbook and some of his classes that he teaches. So he asked for 5 to 10 in his classroom as well that we could put like in a cart situation. So that would be 300 Elite books. We would also order 60 wired mice and keyboard combos. Again, that would be for Mr. Kern and Mr. Bennett's labs. New 27-inch monitors for those labs as well. 60, that would be again for Mr. Kern and also Mr. Bennett's labs. And then we would have 120 USB-C hubs with HDMI VGA. That would be for use with Chromebooks and the laptops. That would be a combination of student and staff. That would be for situations where sometimes they need extra ports. There's some older, there's still a few projectors that need VGA, so a lot of the newer devices only have HDMI, so I would convert it to VGA as well. So that is what we are looking to order to replenish the one-to-one at the high school, and we already had that in my budget for this year. We were figuring it would cost around $600,000 over a 4-year period, which is around $150,000 a year. So the quote came in at $502,830 for all the devices that I just mentioned. And we went out and we also got some lease agreements from different companies just to do we typically lease from California First Company every year. So what I did is I asked each vendor to give me some lease options as well with companies that they deal with. So we got a lease option from like Lenovo. Even though they do laptops, they also do lease agreements. Dell provided a quote, and then there was a couple banks in there. And still Cal First was, they were right at the lowest. Okay, there was another one that was comparable, but Cal First is one that we deal with. So Cal First lease option would be, they gave us a lease option of $138,811.31 paid annually. So that would be within our $150,000 budget. One thing we did leave off of this for now is last time we purchased the laptops, we did pay for an extended warranty, a 4-year warranty on those. Mr. Hawes and myself sat down and went over the numbers, and we felt it was not worth it because we paid it was probably about $50,000 extra for that 4-year maintenance. And when we looked at what we actually used, it was less than $10,000. So what we did is I asked them to take that off of the quotes. And what I'd rather do is take that extra money and maybe put it in like my repair fund. It kind of gives us a little more flexibility, and I think over the long haul, we do a lot of the repairs ourselves here anyway, and we could save money by doing it that way. So I did take that option off of there, which lowered the cost a little bit. So what I am asking for is if we can put this on the agenda for the school board for the lease payment, because the lease has to be approved by the board. And again, this was built into the budget already starting this year so that we could purchase them. We said we would purchase them in the winter, around January. And that way, we're still seeing some supply chain issues with laptops. Gives us a few months that we can get the devices in and we can start working on them to get everything ready for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. All the board members, so you're in favor of putting this on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be on the agenda, please.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sure you're gonna make Mr. Green happy with that report you just gave.
Yes.
And I guess that concludes our technology. And I don't know, Mr. Link, you want me to open up the
yeah, just give me 1 second here so I can get
Mr. Chrisman.
Yeah, Mr. Chrisman. And Mr. Geis, you want to join us at the table?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're at finance.
We're at finance. Sorry, you're still, Sherry, I apologize.
Continue.
Mr. Lincoln, it's okay, I'll just continue.
Please do, sir.
We're gonna start the finance committee meeting, and we'll turn it over for the cafeteria agenda, Mrs. Bing.
All right, some updates for the cafeteria. I just got an email from someone at Giant, the shopping center, prior to the break, saying that Northern Lehigh has been selected again as a local school district to participate in the Roundup at the Register program for the entire month of January and February. So, which means like anybody that shops at Giant during that time, when they go to check out, they'll be prompted to round up to the nearest dollar. Those additional funds will then be donated to the food service department, specifically to be used for programs such as Backpack Buddies, things like that, helping clear out some negative meal account debt that's still lingering from prior years. So speaking of Backpack Buddies, we have about a little shy of $10,000 left in that account to utilize to continue the program. So I definitely foresee us being able to sustain it for the rest of this school year and into next school year, which is great. And again, that's the program that we put together, non-perishable food items for 2 days worth of food for students that sign up. We're at around 132 students that we bag meals for every week. Next, the negative meal account balances, just an update there. Last year, this time, we were around $10,000 worth of district-wide negative account debt. This is pre-COVID, not that has accumulating during the last couple of years where meals have been free, but pre-COVID, so between 2018 and 2019 timeframe, we make multiple attempts on a monthly basis at this point. Ashley in the business department has sent out letters, emails, made phone calls to parents to reconcile those debts, and we were able to bring it down to a little over $5,000. Currently we stand there, so we essentially cut that in half, which is great. And I just wanted to mention, under the CEP program, which we are currently under right now, with the universal free meals, this will not accrue that negative debt, so we won't be continuing to add to that for however long we're under this program. Also, Primero Edge, the new software program that we'll be fully putting into place starting next year. We're starting the background work. We had a kickoff call before the break with the person that's managing this project from Primero Edge. And we have weekly meetings starting this week with her. You know, it'll be like a 13, 16-week process somewhere in there. She had informed us just to do all the background work, data entry, things like that. And we just paid that installation and training fee, which was around $3,900. We also recently had our food service staff utilizing their uniform allowances that they get annually per person, which total between the 19 employees totaled $2,900 that was paid out of the food service budget for their uniform allotment. Another thing that I wanted to update on is previously, over I want to say the last 7 years it's been, Sue had started, and I followed suit with this, going to Produce Junction weekly to purchase our fresh produce for the week for each school. I essentially eliminated that because we had applied for the DoD Fresh program, which is like a grant program that we have, that we can utilize those funds and get produce delivered weekly to us with grant money instead of purchasing through Produce Junction. So we're saving a little bit month by month doing that for the fresh produce. And then the completion of the audit, they discovered that we were about 4,000 in the positive at the end of last year, so the 2021-2022 audit completion year. And anytime you are in the positive with the food service department, you have to put together a action plan on how to utilize those funds, which we ensured them that part of those funds, or all of those funds, were going towards the additional costs for the upgrade of the dishwasher that we selected for the middle school project that happened over the summer. And And lastly, just coming off of Thanksgiving and Christmas meals, you know, anybody that participated, you know, students, staff, in coming to dine with us over those 2 meals, any of those additional funds are always appreciated. You know, any of those meals served that we sold, any little bit helps, you know, the food service budget. And then also the breakfast with Santa, as well as the senior citizen Christmas meal event went seamlessly, and everybody really enjoyed that. So it was nice to bring that back after not doing the senior citizen meal for the last couple years. And that was at Slatington Elementary. So that was pretty much all I had from food service.
Quick question,
yeah.
you're talking about your negative meal allowance, and I think that's well that you've cut that in half. Supposing students want to buy extras or the add-ons, do they still have their regular accounts that they put money in and things like that? And supposing their account is dry, can they still buy an extra, or are they told no, or how does that work?
If their account in our system shows a negative balance, we cannot sell a la carte. They still get the full
meal
component, full meal, but any extras, a la carte, you know, drink, snack, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, we can if they're in the negative. Now, if they bring us cash, as long as they aren't putting themselves deeper into the negative, say they want to purchase $1 snack and they have that cash with them, we do allow that. So
and that would be the same
they're still
with
able to get snacks.
Anybody who gets free meals, whatever, they would all do it the same way.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Fink, for your report. Appreciate it. Mrs. Montour, are you doing this?
Yep.
Can I
One
just say
question.
something before you go on? I just, on behalf of the team that worked on Senior Citizens program, just want to thank the food staff again. I rode on one of the buses to take the senior citizens back, and that's all they talked about was the food.
Yeah.
And they just loved it, so you guys do a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that.
Yeah.
Did you get a free meal, Tim?
Actually, I did.
Did you?
It wasn't free, I had to clean up.
Can you qualify for it?
But it was good.
For the summer job you do, you should.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one.
Yep, the Act 1 resolution. So on the board agenda for approval will be the Act 1 resolution for this coming school year. The resolution means that we cannot raise taxes over Northern Lehigh's adjusted index, which is 5.5%. So that will be on the board agenda to not raise taxes above that. So if everybody's in agreement, we will move that to the agenda for Monday evening. Also, Portnoy agreement will be on. This is, Portnoy is our delinquent tax collector, so every year we approve the motion to approve Portnoy to collect our delinquent 2022 taxes. If the board is in agreement, we'll move that for approval on Monday evening as well.
All in favor, I guess.
Burkheim.
It's been working well.
Yes,
It's been working well.
Portnoy works very well. Yes, they really, considering when you used to use the county, and the county would take 10 to 12 years to get people's delinquent taxes paid. Yeah, Portnoy does this a very fine job. Berkheimer agreement, this is just listing me to receive updates for EIT collections. Currently Heather and Ashley in my office have those updates, but I need the updates in order for apply for the Sterling tax credit. And I did miss that email this year, but I was able to still apply because I called them and they said you're not on the list, that's why you didn't get the email. So this is just giving me as permission to get that email.
So Sherry, they're still, the other two are still gonna get it?
Yep, yep, the other two do the monthly
Yep.
deposits and the weekly deposits that we get for EIT collections and LSD collections. I just need to get that email for the Sterling tax credit.
Yes, everybody's in agreement with that?
Yes.
And the last one is, don't forget, the board agenda will be the motion for the ERIP that the board must consider every year according to contract language for the Education Association. So that will also be on the board agenda Monday evening for approval, or whatever.
that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Very good.
And that is it for finance, unless anybody has any questions. I'm hungry, I tried to keep it short.
Me too.
Me too.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we'll move on to extra and co-curricular meeting. So, Mrs. Heckman, if you can open the meeting.
Everybody, welcome to the extra and co-curricular meeting. Let's start with online sales.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Heckman. The last board meeting approved online ticket sales, so just want to kind of give back the stats. So we're sitting around about 20% of individuals are purchasing single game tickets online, 80% are still paying cash sales. A big hit has been the season passes. We've had 32 people take advantage of that at a discount, and a number of those people are come to multiple winter sports events. So that's been a very positive impact. And some people have asked in regards to, will that take care of in the fall? And I said yes. So we will be offering season passes in the fall as per the directive. Any questions with those online sales?
Are you going to be doing spring, like for track?
We don't give admission. We don't sell admission for track. If you'd like to pay, no problem.
We'll even give you a
We'll
cake.
take donations, absolutely.
I did buy the basketball, to see my daughter play basketball, and it is very convenient. I mean, I just walk in and it's just very convenient, so I do recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was against it and kind of like, everybody wants cash, but that was a little convenient, so it's good.
Or can we promote that online sale anymore?
I send out a weekly, so to all the visiting athletic directors, so all the schools, I send a game day information sheet out to all those. And everybody in the Colonial League has Planet High School, or renamed, it has like 3 different names. And we're able to communicate that to all the parents in those particular programs. So that's what the visiting athletic directors are doing. They're pushing that. And I just received Bangers today, so I pushed Bangers information out to the groups that are going up Saturday to Banger.
But it does really work well. I know with my grandchildren out in Indiana, it's almost 100% there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have a choice.
Right.
And it works very well.
Yeah, and
It's a great savings also in the fact that the ticket collecting and all that is not.
Yeah.
And you don't have to handle cash after that.
Right.
I know it's related, but not really related, kind of early. For fall, for football, or soccer, and whatever concession stand. Mr. Link, I know you and I talked about it before. I think we should really consider taking online payment at the concession stand.
100% online payment?
No. Option. Cash or.
That's something to look at. I think we have to look at infrastructure. Like, I don't know what infrastructure has to take place through a wireless network, looking through Mr. Hill. I've never done any of that.
So
and point of sale, like it'd be, I guess, a point of sale.
Yeah, so you can do it really simply. So like up at our little baseball thing, we have a phone that stays there with the Square app. So over here at the concession stand, you could maybe take an old Chromebook.
There's wireless over there.
And you have wireless service, so you can take your Chromebook there. You attach a POS plug-in, which the actual swipe things are free when you sign up, or you can pay $20 to get an extra one, or you can pay $80 for like the one that is the touchless pay. So it's a one-time fee of like $80, and then you set up the Square app, and the only time that you don't actually pay for anything. You get charged a fee every transaction, so you have to build in a service fee and all that stuff. But on a small scale, like up at Emerald, is where I help manage, we've seen almost a 25% sales increase because of that. And it's actually kind of neat because it actually breaks down like what your top sellers are. Shows you how much you made on that particular. So like here, reports.
Do different groups use that concession stand
Yes.
to
So
raise
depending
money?
on what sport's being played. So in the fall, we have boys and girls soccer. So if it's a girls soccer game going on, girls soccer. Generally, soccer has been boys and girls. They they'll work it together and kind of split it up. If it's field hockey parents. If it's football. And if it's during track, then it's track. And here in the winter, cheerleading has stepped in for basketball, and then wrestling does wrestling.
Okay.
So depending on the sport, and then we prorate it, and then we give the money that's fundraised after we deduct expenses are then put into their concession account and then used for a number of things.
Got it, okay. But it's still like, the money is filtering through
Through the
you
school
or
district,
us
yeah.
first. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they like, yeah, I didn't know if it was, that answered my question. Thank
Right,
you.
and the only thing I would caution, if we did a point of sale, I know we tried doing a cash register years ago,
God,
that
I
lasted
remember
for
that
about
cash
30
register.
seconds. For soccer and field hockey, since there's not an influx of humanity at halftime, where in football there is, that's the only caution. That'd be something that we'd have to look at during halftime.
Yeah.
And then you get the visiting band, if it's Pine Grove, we're looking at 300 kids, plus everybody else that's coming up and looking to purchase something. It's definitely something to look at.
And maybe even you make a section that's
Pay online only.
Yeah,
Sure.
credit card only line.
Yeah,
You
there
know,
are
you
definitely
have-
options.
Have a person dedicated to.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely open. We just have to look at infrastructure and work with Mr. Hill and something that we can investigate coming up the next couple of months.
Yeah. If I know I'll go to games, I'm like, oh, crap. And if, if there was an option to pay, I would have.
Right. Any other questions about online sales? One of the really cool things that we do every year is we have a Ring of Honor ceremony, and we're going to be honoring some state champion wrestlers and the 1985 state championship team on Tuesday. Somebody, Mr. Kern, was the coach of the 1985 team, so we're going to be honoring Coach Kern's team and the state championship that they won back in 1985. Everyone is welcome, and just a great ceremony that we have, and to recognize some of our Hall of Fame inductees. Any questions?
Is that happening at the gym?
Yeah, it's going to be right before the wrestling match on
Okay.
Tuesday. So we have junior high wrestling match. Once the junior high wrestling match is over, then depending on the time it is, then we'll have our ceremony and then the wrestling match. The varsity wrestling match will commence after that.
That should take about 10 minutes. I'm sorry.
The ceremony.
What? No, the wrestling match. 72-0, Brian. 72-0.
Yeah,
That's
we
like
have-
11 pins and 2 wins.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We have a
23-0.
number of, the good news is we have a lot of wrestlers that are just not experienced.
Oh, man.
Got to build somewhere.
It hurts.
I
You
know.
know, basketball team scoring 2 points in a quarter. You think they go to halftime and just throw the ball up and score more than 2 points? It hurts. You know, I mean, the football team was fantastic.
I like the idea, though, showing the history of Northern League Wrestling. For me personally, all 3 of my state champs will be there. And the team, of course. And wrestlers of that team, which is awesome.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
So is it wrestlers, like obviously the team, are there other wrestlers from other years that are also being honored that night?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Who are they?
They are, I just want to make sure I got Jeremy Dogmanitz and Mr. Kern, if you can help me, was he 1995?
95.
We also have,
My last match, coach.
Really?
He won states, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I knew
Oh, there you go.
Doggy on stage.
I'm dating myself.
we also have Herzog.
Giz wrestled for Glenn, I'm sorry. We called him Giz in high school.
We also have, I want to say it was, I mess him up, Jared Herzog.
Jared
Herzog,
yeah.
state champion. And then we also have Ivan Rosario, I want to say 1991. Yeah, 1991. So we have 3 state champions as well as the 1985 team.
Cool.
Yep. And tomorrow I was notified, Mr. Hausnick at the morning call will be mentioning or talking about the 1985 team, and he requested a photo for the morning call in 1985. So that should be in the morning call tomorrow. Yeah.
Before you adjourn, since I picked up for the false starts, I want to say thank you for writing your letters about the football team and calling that to the district's attention. I was not at the game, but just watching it on TV, it just looked like an absolute atrocity and just a total unfair playing field that we were on that day. And, you know, thank you for stepping up and doing that, and hopefully they'll correct some of those things in the future.
The circles that I work in, they won't publicly admit it, but they
Yeah.
admitted without admitting that they messed up.
Yeah, yeah.
Which doesn't help us.
No, it doesn't help at this point, no,
Right.
but, you know, they're not gonna take the championship away or anything like that, so, but it's a shame for our guys. Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Geist, for your report, and I guess with that, we can close.
We're done here.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.